for the weekend. Remember, a number of these cars will also be out for the Ultimate GT Endurance Cup on Sunday as well. But for now, it is just to focus on the next 25 minutes of racing around this 4.411 kilometre circuit. Well, yesterday, after finishing second place with Gregory Drio at the wheel, the number 12 CMR Ginetta GTX will be starting on pole position, this time at the hands of Lawrence Tomlinson, the Ginetta CEO, who bagged a double pole position in Q2 yesterday. So he'll be starting on pole position for this race and race 4, having also set the second fastest time in Q2. And alongside him will be the Ford GT from the DeBard Automobiles by Racetivity team, with Eric DeBard himself. That car hopefully running in a healthier condition than it was when Hugo Chevalier was driving it yesterday. He was leading quite comfortably when his rear brakes seemed to seize up and took Hugo off the road and out of the race. That allowed Seb Lejeune in his eponymous team Porsche Cup car, the 888 machine, take victory just ahead of Gregory Drio in the car that is now going to be starting on pole position. And that 888 car now at the hands of Stéphane Perrin for the Seb Lejeune team, and starting in 5th position, 3rd of the Porsche Cup runners. And in fact, it's Loic Thiers who will be starting on Porsche Cup pole position in 3rd overall. The big news in UCS3, though, is that Lyle Schofield yesterday did not score points after being hit from behind by Gabriel Pimont in that number 89 GP Racing Team Porsche in their battle for position. Pimont was penalised for the incident, but that didn't do much for Schofield, who ended up retiring from the race. And there is that white Ferrari 488 Challenge that's just pulled into its grid slot, now with Lorenzo Monteiro at the wheel. And the irony is those two sharing that car, but both going for the championship. Frédéric Lacour, in his Racing Spirit of Le Mans car, not here this weekend. And so that puts the SR&R teammates in a good position to scrap for the title. Schofield has very much been the form man in UCS3 throughout the year, with 5 class wins to his name, and the championship leader was probably thinking about wrapping up the title this weekend, but with 1 DNF to kick off the weekend, and now with Lorenzo starting 2nd in the UCS3, the thorn in the side is the Ginetta that's starting on pole position, really. But Lorenzo could be closing up that gap, so that is definitely one to keep an eye on throughout the day. And we were thinking about crowning Francesco Azzori overall champion, but the GT3 SR&R car not here this weekend, and so Azzori will have to wait until the final meeting of the season at Paul Ricard. And of course, Lyle Schofield, 2nd in the championship, was hoping to close in on Azzori's 29.5 point lead, but didn't end up doing so with his DNF yesterday. Reminder about that Ford GT on the front row of the grid, the DeBard Automobiles by Racetivity car. Eric DeBard celebrating his 60th birthday yesterday, picking car number 60 for this weekend. That was originally supposed to be a Mercedes AMG C63 DTM car, but they weren't allowed to race it because it was too loud. We have a noise limit at Circuit Magny-Cours of 105 decibels. The DTM car was clocking in at 113. And so they've dug this Ford GT out the back of the truck. It is a 2007 machine that used to race in the GT3 European Championship back in the day at the hands of Thomas Much, who was very much a development driver of that car and its GT1 counterpart for the Matek team. And it still has all the original stickers and liveries that it had when it was racing back in the day at the hands of Thomas Much, including that fabulous NASCAR Ford engine, the V8 that sits at the back of the Ford GT. That is not a GT40, we should say. That is the original machine from the 60s. Made iconic by the Le Mans 66 movie, but that is the more modern counterpart from 2007. As we can see, track is being cleared. The 3-minute board has gone out, and so we wait for the grid to be cleared, and we will have 25 minutes of racing to start the day off here at Circuit Magny-Cours. We've seen qualifying for the Legends Cars Cup out already, but this is the first race of the day. And as you can see, conditions slightly different to yesterday. We were racing into the sunset yesterday. The track was glowing orange, and we even had some company from the moon as well, but a little bit more grey, a little bit more overcast this morning. Certainly very chilly out there. I've got 3 layers on in the commentary box, so that will that should give you some sort of an indication as to just how chilly it is out there at the moment. But generally that means that engines are running crisply and tyres are performing at their best. You see the marshals just clearing the last few grid members or team members off the grid. Shortly we'll be going for the formation lap. The marshal with the green flag at the back of the field. Safety car pulls away, and then the green flag is waved to get the formation lap underway. So I'll run you through the grid order then. It is Lawrence Tomlinson in the number 12 CMR Ginetta GTX. That is the unhomologated G56 that won in the GTX category of the Dubai 24 Hours this year. He starts on pole position. Eric Debard in the number 60 Debard Automobiles by Racetivity Ford GT starts alongside him. Then comes a string of Porsche Cup category machines. Loic Thiers for the GP Racing team. He and Gabriel Pimont will be out on Sunday for the GT Endurance race. Cesar van der Westen running solo for the 2B Autosports team number 14 car on the second row of the grid. He starts second in Porsche Cup. Stéphane Perrin in the car that won yesterday for Seb Ligier Racing, the 888 car. He starts in 5th position overall. Then comes Lorenzo Monteiro, second of the UCS3 runners and trying to close in on Lyle Schofield in the championship for SR&R. Then Carla Debard, her first race in Porsche Cup category, having usually competed in French GT4 competition in the number 81 Debard Automobiles by Racetivity Porsche. She lines up 7th. Then our last UCS3 car, which is Patrick Michelier, finished second in his CMR prepared Ferrari yesterday. UCS4 for GT4 machinery. It's yesterday's race winner in that category, Francois Denise, in the 555 Speed Car Ginetta G55, starting ahead of Pierre Aru in the number 64 Herrero Racing Audi R8. Then our UCS Light pole sitter, Maxime Courtemanche, in number 72. So Hugo Lacasse was driving the Ligier JS2R from drive-in yesterday, and Olivier Huet, the former Caterham champion, in the 303 Speed Car Ginetta G50. Marine Pidou in the midjet, and then Adrian Stern in the G56 Evo Ginetta from CMR, lining up at the back of this 14-car field. Hugo Chevalier was the man to beat in the Ford GT yesterday before mechanical woes intervened for the Frenchman. Let's see how Eric Debard does. From second position, the former French GT champion, the 60-year-old now from Albi, who has represented his nation at the FIA Motorsport Games in the GT Cup, gold medalist back in 2022. But more recent years has been racing in French GT4 and in Porsche Carrera Cup France. So very different machinery that he is racing in this weekend. But for Lawrence Tomlinson, racing in a car from a brand that he owns, the Ginetta GTX, a step beyond the GT4 car, as we mentioned. Behind them, the Porsche Cup battle rages on. They make their way through the final chicane, keeping it neat and tidy, and we wait for the lights to get this second race of the weekend for the Ultimate GT Sprint Cup underway. Last car through the chicane, the lights are out, and Lawrence Tomlinson puts his foot to the floor, but gets crowded by the Ford GT on the outside towards the Grand Curve for the first time of asking, and it is just the Ginetta boss who leads going through Estoril, with Eric Debard closely followed by Loic Thiers. Cesar van der Westen, and then Stéphane Perrin trying to get up to second position in the Porsche Cup category. They're going to go side by side, it looks like, on the blast down towards the Adelaide hairpin, the biggest stop on the circuit, and maybe even Cesar van der Westen is the man trying to get the Porsche Cup lead as he's drawn to the outside. That will give Perrin a look up the inside on driver's right, and it is the GP Racing car, the Seb Lejeune car, I should say, sorry, that emerges in second position in the Porsche Cup category. So Cesar van der Westen has dropped one spot from his starting position. Lorenzo Monteiro, as Lyle Schofield was yesterday, sticking very closely with the top three in the Porsche Cup category, and Patrick Michelier has also made up one spot on Carla Debard. I think we saw that happen yesterday, but Carla Debard was able to close back in on the Frenchman, and we have yellow flags out at turn number 7. That's the Nürburgring chicane, and did hear a tyre squeal. We'll wait to see who hasn't come through the second sector split in a while. It might be Francois Denis, our UCS4 pole sitter. He's the only car who hasn't come through the second sector split, and that was the Victor in UCS4 yesterday. So the speed car prepared Ginetta G55 looks like it is now circulating at the back of the grid after bringing out yellow flags at turn number 7. But at the end of the first lap, green flags now waving at turn number 7, by the way. So at the end of the first lap, 1 second is Lawrence Tomlinson's advantage. Well, it should be Lawrence Tomlinson, but on the timing screen it's saying Gregory Drio, although I've just had the thumbs up from Claire that it is in fact Lawrence Tomlinson at the wheel of the car. He leads Eric Debard by 1 second, and then 1.5 seconds back to the Porsche Cup battle, with Cesar van der Westen trying to take back second in that class. But look how much Debard in the Ford closes up in the first sector. So much grunt in that NASCAR-powered Ford GT. So Tomlinson, spit of flame there from the exhaust, the side exhaust on the Ginetta. I'm used to seeing that because they have it on their LMP3 car as well, unlike their counterparts from Duqueine and Ligier. And that also does mean it makes quite a ruckus out there on track. And if you're in the stands this morning, then you're certainly getting to enjoy that sound. Of course, Ginetta in the Ultimate Cup Series, a very close relationship between the championship and the brand. The GT4 Evo that Adrian Stern is driving made its global race debut at this event last year and won in the 4-hour GT endurance race as well. And this is not the only car that they have been developing here in the Ultimate Cup Series. Of course, they've been working very hard on improving their LMP3 car in anticipation of the introduction of third generation car for 2025. All working with the CMR team very closely on that. That has very much become the French distributor of Ginetta machinery. As Cesar van der Westen, who was second in his class yesterday, tries to close up on Stéphane Perrin. Those cars are line astern as they were yesterday, but this time it's Loeb who's ended up coming out ahead of both of them. And that was it was a slightly messy race for the GP Racing number 89 car yesterday. First of all, with contact with the rear of Lyle Schofield's Ferrari, and then picking up a time penalty for track limits abuse. And I think that team also ended up picking up 2 fines as well yesterday. One for what was deemed to be dangerous behavior in the pit lane, and then another for missing the driver's briefing. So they've been racking up the penalties so far today. Hopefully it's a smooth weekend for them for the remainder. Fastest lap of the race set last time by Eric Debard in second position in that Ford GT, but he was only 0.04 of a second quicker than our race leader Lawrence Tomlinson, so the gap remains at around 1 second as we see Cesar van der Westen is flashing the lights and trying to distract Stéphane Perrin in the battle for second position in Porsche Cup. That is also for 4th position overall, and going into Virage de l'Ice, a slightly wide moment for Stéphane Perrin, and that has just allowed Cesar van der Westen to just close up even further Still flashing the lights down the start and finish straight, heading back into the Grand Curve where they really fling it in there with some speed. It's a wonderful high-speed start to the lap through Estoril. Now this is where they've been monitoring track limits on the exit of this corner. It is the white line that has been deemed the track limit, so none of this nonsense with having to worry about where you are on the curb. Now that time around, it was at 0.2 of a second that Debard took out of Tomlinson, and he very nearly drew alongside, but it's side by side for second in Porsche Cup with Cesar van der Westen on the inside of the Adelaide hairpin, and the Frenchman, the former Roscar racer, does make his way through into 4th position overall and 2nd in his class. But the leaders were very close together going into that corner as well. Eric Debard just having to kind of bail out of an overtaking opportunity. Also, there was a risk he was going to run into the back of Tomlinson's car. Timing screen has now updated to confirm Tomlinson driving the number 12 machine. And so Cesar van der Westen, now he's up to 2nd position in class. 1.6 seconds is the gap to the class leader, Loic Thiers. And he's got 18.5 minutes to try and close that down. Gap up at the front of the field continues to ebb and flow with the various strengths between the Ginetta and the Ford, and that time Lawrence Tomlinson returned the serve and set the fastest lap of the race. 1:45.96 has built the gap back up to 8.5 of a second. Headlights ablaze for the Ford. Just listen to these two thunderous V8 engines pounding around this Magny-Cours circuit. Absolutely wonderful stuff, and a great battle between these two cars. Of course, the Ford GT, not a contemporary GT3 machine, and Hugo Chevalier was saying yesterday, we were only a couple of seconds off the modern GT3 times. And so impressive stuff, but of course the Ginetta itself not quite running at GT3 pace. It's beyond GT4 speed, but not quite at GT3 pace level. So what we've inadvertently ended up here is two very evenly matched cars in the hands of Laurent Tomlinson and Eric Debard, and the latter took 0.4 of a second out of Tomlinson on the previous in that sector, and so the gap has definitely come down. But again, the Ginetta is able to return the serve in the middle sector, the slightly twistier end of the lap. And so let's see what happens when they get through the 3rd sector. I imagine they'll be quite evenly matched because they have been all race long. Oh, pops and bangs from the exhaust echoing around the circuit. Hop, skip and a jump over the curbs at the final chicane, and now we're going to have traffic being caught up in this as well. Francois Denis is the car in last position at the moment, the 555 speed car Ginetta that was seemingly spun round. We never saw what happened, and it's the GTX Ginetta going around the GT4 Ginetta. Now, if there's one thing Francois Denis does not want to do, he doesn't want to hold up the CEO of the car that he is driving. So he very much kept it to one side there, but it's really closed up between the leaders while that was going on. Almost nose to tail under braking for the Adelaide hairpin, and Debard getting a nice run through there. Tomlinson has now a mirror full of blue-nosed Ford GT, and I thought for a second that Debard was going to try a lunge up the inside of the Nürburgring chicane. That would have been outrageous. Two very different lines being taken through the 180-degree corner, and a slightly wide moment it looked like for Debard. You see he's got the headlights going and trying to distract Tomlinson as much as possible. I wonder if that's a tip from Hugo Chevalier, who he is sharing the car with this weekend. Hugo, we've been used to seeing out in the GT Endurance field with the 2B Autosport team, and in fact is coaching Eric's daughter Carla this weekend, taking over from Simon Gachet, who normally has that role in French GT4, but is on GT World Challenge duty in Barcelona this weekend. Right, Maxime Courtemanche here in the Ligier from driving, trying to get around Pierre Aru, the UCS4 race leader. This is not for class position, but it is for overall, 9th. And you've got Olivier Huet and Adrian Stern, Aru's class rivals, right behind in there as well. So this is important stuff for Pierre Aru to try and keep his title rivals at bay. He has 2 class wins to his name so far this year, both of them coming during the Trofeo GTS race in Portimao. He is the championship leader, the former Legends racer who has had that Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner livery since his first ever Legends race back in 2008. The bright orange Ligier is hounding the back of the GT4 car. It was Hugo Lacasse in that car yesterday. Now Maxime Courtemanche. And they do run almost side by side into Chateau d'Eau. Olivier Huet is right behind them as well, the French Caterham champion. And then Adrian Stern in the Evo version of the G56, making his first appearance in the Ultimate Cup since the opening meeting in Paul Ricard. He picked up 4 class podiums that weekend. And so through Estoril once again, and the Ligier closes right up to the back of the Audi, but he is also bringing Olivier Huet with him. Now this is our first of the Ferrari Challenge cars, Lorenzo Monteiro. He's lapping through the traffic as well, so that's Francois Denis that he's just usurped. Monteiro still running 6th overall and 2nd of the UCS3 runners. That, of course, is going to close him up to Lyle Schofield in the championship. And this UCS4 battle is about to be joined by the overall race leaders, who are separated by just half a second now, because Eric Tabard took around 0.4 of a second out of race leader Lawrence Tomlinson last time around with the fastest lap of the race at 1:40.148. Back into the Nürburgring chicane, they've been lapping more of the traffic. That's Marine Pidou, the midget racer, the TikTok famous midget racer that they have usurped, and now Adrian Stern in another Ginetta from CMR that is up on the list, and he makes it very easy for the 2 race leaders. Olivier Huet's next up the road in the another Ginetta, the Evo version of that car, and maybe Tabard's going to get slightly more held up there as he had to go the long way round of the Imola chicane, the left-hand element of that, turn 13. And that has compromised Olivier Huet slightly as well. And so the speed car Ginetta now has the CMR Ginetta for very close company as well. But Lawrence Tomlinson making a dive on the Ligier into Virage de l'Ice. And now is between Pierre Aru and Maxime Courtemanche, but he now blasts past the Audi on the start and finish straight, and Eric Tabard should be able to do the same thing as well. Oh, he's not quite going to clear the Audi by the time they get into the Grand Curve, and has to do it on the inside, and that compromises his run. And the gap that had reduced on the previous lap has expanded back up to 0.9 of a second now. That is the difference that traffic can make in these short and sharp races. Just listening to some of the race car noise, you hear it skipping along the ground under braking, the rumble as the V8s roar into life, the spit of flame again from the GTX Ginetta. That has previously been in the hands of Eric Mouet. Oh, a spin though, for Eric Tabard from 2nd position going into the 180-degree corner, and that is disaster for the man who was hunting for the overall win here. Now, can he get it going again? That is the question. There's a bit of smoke coming out of the back of the Ford GT. Is it just overheating slightly? Remember, we saw Hugo Chevalier with seemingly some sort of brake issue, because he was wrestling with the car, braking for the Adelaide hairpin, but that is a spin for Eric Debard, so surely that's promoted Loic Thiers into second position. And yep, just a wide moment, gets into that painted runoff area. Not a lot of grip out there, sadly. You see he's ended up in the long lap penalty for the World Superbike Championship, actually. And so suddenly that is Lawrence Tomlinson looking very comfortable out at the front of the field and should have something like a 10-second lead over Loic Thiers. But for how much longer? Because Cesar van der Westen is all over the back of the GP Racing number 89 Porsche going into the Grand Curve. This is for the lead in Porsche Cup and for what is now second position overall. 15 seconds is Lawrence Tomlinson's advantage with 9 minutes to go. But once again, Cesar van der Westen piling on the pressure and trying to take another class victory in the Porsche Cup. He and his brother Cesar have been racking up the victories so far this year. They head down towards the Adelaide hairpin, and Van der Westen on the inside doesn't quite manage to draw the overlap he was after, but goes for the up and under, the corner that was made famous by David Coulthard, making his feelings towards Michael Schumacher very plain indeed back in the early 2000s. And so it's a bit follow the leader through the middle sector, but certainly Cesar van der Westen is piling on the pressure. And remember that Cesar, as a silver class driver, also has to take penalties during the race. It is a post-race 47-second time penalty, so even if he beats Loic Thiers on the road, he will have to do quite something to stay ahead of him. Although, as was announced at the annual press conference last night by the Ultimate Cup Series, that will no longer be the case in 2025. We'll also be reducing the number of categories that we have in the championship. We'll no longer have UCS Light. Pretty much it'll become UCS 4, with GT4 cars moving into UCS 3. And then UCS 2 will be for Ferrari Challenge machinery alongside the Super Trofeos in UCS 2. So 7.5 minutes remain. Still, Loic Thiers hangs on to second position. Now, last time around, Lawrence Tomlinson did a 1:45.2 and lost 3 seconds to these two cars battling for the Porsche Cup lead. Now, that might well have been related to traffic, but we'll definitely keep an eye out on that, because that was a slow lap for Lawrence Tomlinson. Eric Debard, by the way, after that spin, has settled back into 5th position. He's 2 seconds behind Stéphane Perrin, the car 3rd in Porsche Cup. So I imagine he'll be able to round up Stéphane Perrin by the end of the race. 11 seconds between our cars 2nd and 3rd in UCS 3, with Carla Debard giving Patrick Michelier a lot of close company, as she was at the end of yesterday's race for 7th position overall. And still it is Pierre Aru who holds the lead in UCS 4, still holding overall position ahead of Maxime Courtemanche as well. But back to the lead battle in Porsche Cup, as there is nothing separating Cesar van der Westen now. Now, this is the corner yesterday where the GP Racing car at the head of that field, at the hands of Gabriel Piemont, went into the back of Lyle Schofield. No such dramas for Loic Thiers and Cesar van der Westen, though. 6 minutes left on the clock. And this battle rages on once again, looking more like a Carrera Cup race out there between these two cars that have been very evenly matched. Remember, Cesar dropped a position to Stéphane Perrin at the start of the race and has been working his way back up the order since then. Still headlights flashing, typical racing driver. Closes right up under braking for the Adelaide hairpin, but he just can't quite draw the overlap he needs over Loic Thiers. And of course, this is great practice for Loic, who will be racing in GTE, but that off the road is the number 6, Adrian Stern Ginetta from CMR, that was running in 3rd position in his category. And that looks to be at Estoril, turn 3. Now he's got it going again. He's trying to get it pointing in the right direction. He does rejoin the racetrack with quite a bit of muck on his tyres, but I'm sure that would have been quite a high speed off for Adrian Stern, and I'm sure he would have lost now the UCS4 podium. But now side by side for the lead in Porsche Cup, and Loeb just about chopped the nose of Cesar van der Westen and then lit up those rear Goodyear tyres for good measure on the exit of Chateau d'Eau. They blast back down towards Virage de l'Ice. Will van der Westen have another lunge on the inside here? No, not quite, but that was the closest it has been between these two cars, with just over 4 minutes left on the clock now. Car 81, that's Carla Debard in the number 81. Car has been given a 5-second time penalty for track limits infringements, but enough there for Loeb. He got on the grass in the middle of the Grand Curve. He's off the road. Is he going to meet the barriers? Yes, he does. He noses the tyre wall, and a spin of the rear wheels means that he is beached in that gravel trap. That was just a wide moment for Loeb that has gifted the Porsche Cup lead to Cesar van der Westen. And that all seemed to happen in slow motion right in front of our eyes there, as Loeb, the Porsche Cup race leader, skated off the road. That promotes Cesar van der Westen to second position overall. Yellow flags are out at turn 3. Unsurprisingly, here we're going to see it again. So it's a wide moment, gets on the curb, gets on the grass, and then there was no saving it there, and some real heads-up driving from Cesar van der Westen to make sure that the car was clear of him before he ended up making his way through Estoril corner. And that looks like a pretty stricken GP racing team Porsche, sadly. Now, just while we were watching that replay, I did end up looking at Lawrence Tomlinson's lap times, who's still not lapping anywhere near the pace that he could have been. Now, that might just be because Eric Debard is not chasing him anymore, but we'll keep an eye on that. If a safety car comes out, well, there wouldn't be enough time to get the race restarted, I would have thought. So the pre-surface flag is out at turn number 3. I wonder if that's just because of some of the dirt that's been brought back onto the road by Loeb. Turn 3 incident is under investigation. I mean, there was no contact between the two cars, and the 14 and the 89 are the ones that have been listed, so I imagine that'll be a fairly short investigation. Oh, look, Eric Debard has closed in on Cesar van der Westen in his recovery. He's up to 3rd position overall now and could still well make it 2nd. Of course, for Cesar, his focus is primarily on the Porsche Cup. Debard could still end up in 2nd position overall and recover to the spot that he spun from earlier in the race. So 2 minutes left on the clock. Of course, that promotes Stéphane Perrin in the Seb Lejoux car to 2nd position in Porsche Cup, 4th overall. Lorenzo Montiero, Patrick Michelier 5th and 6th, and then Carla Debard still looking at the back of that CMR Ferrari in 7th place. There's a little look up the inside from Eric Debard into the 180-degree corner. That's where he spun the Ford GT earlier in the race. I can't imagine Cesar's going to have too much of a defence for this. The grunt of the Ford draws him alongside towards the Imola chicane, and on the inside, Eric Debard goes through into 2nd position overall, but Cesar van der Westen holds on to the Porsche Cup lead now in 3rd. And so I'm sure the race leader, Lawrence Tomlinson, will be starting his final lap of the race shortly. 8.5 seconds clear of that battle for 2nd place. That is Loeb out of the car. Doesn't seem too miffed with himself, having a bit of a laugh with the marshals, but we are now on to the final lap of the race. Eric Debard 6.3 seconds behind Lawrence Tomlinson. I'd be really fascinated to hear from Lawrence at the end of the race, whether he's been cruising or whether he's got a genuine issue on that Ginetta. Oh, Cesar van der Westen now picking up a 5-second time penalty for track limits, but he is 10 seconds clear of Stéphane Perrin. I mean, what's going to do more damage is his silver class penalty post-race, which I imagine will give Stéphane Perrin the win in Porsche Cup. Well, we'll wait for the timing screen to confirm that at the end of the race. But here is the race leader, Lawrence Tomlinson, from pole position, resisted the efforts of Eric Debard in the earlier stages of the race and has been cruising out there since then. But Debard's still really closing in on him. That gap is not 6.3 seconds. I really do wonder if Tomlinson has some sort of an advantage, because his best lap at 140.5, and he's been lapping in the 44s and 45s lately. Well, there's only 3 corners to go, but if he's not careful, Debard could beat him to the checkered flag. It should be okay. Only 3 corners to go. Laurens Tomlinson makes his way into Virage de l'Ice. And through the final chicane now, and it will be victory in race number 2 for Laurens Tomlinson in the number 12 CMR Ginetta GTX. Only 1.5 seconds clear in the end of Eric Debard in the Debard Automobiles by Racetivity Ford GT. An overall podium finish. That's a good 60th birthday present for the man who turned 60 yesterday. Cesar van der Westen, 3rd overall with the Porsche Cup victory, but again we wait for the time screen to update. And this is Carla Debard, just as she was yesterday, piling on the pressure on Patrick Michelier, but the Ferrari proving very difficult to try and usurp for overall position. And so the French GT4 racer making her Porsche Cup machinery debut is still going to have to settle for a spot behind Patrick Michelier, but it's Lorenzo Monteiro who takes 2nd in UCS3 and Michelier 3rd in class. Carla Debard also taking a silver class penalty, don't forget, in 7th across the line. It'll be Maxime Courtemanche, who did clear Pierre Aru for overall position in the end, in 8th. Pierre Aru with victory in UCS4 after his 2nd place finish yesterday. And so that is his 3rd victory of the season in his category. With Olivier Huez in 2nd position. That is his 1st. Marine Pidou, 2nd of the UCS Light Cars, in 11th position. And then Francois Denis was 3rd in the end, so that moment for Adrian Stern did lose him the UCS4 podium, and so yesterday's race winner, Francois Denis, after the spin on the opening lap, does come home 3rd in the 555 speed car Ginetta G55. So Laurens Tomlinson makes his way into Parc Fermé and will celebrate the overall victory. It was 2nd overall for Gregory Drio yesterday. And now the overall win for Laurens Tomlinson. Class winner at the Le Mans 24 Hours, of course, in the Panos. Before working on a entry of Ginetta's own in LMP1.
That was fun.
There's Gregory Drio just congratulating Laurens on the victory.
For the next race as well. I saved my tyres for the next race.
Gregory, the former Dams team principal, who Laurens is sharing the car with. Eric Debard just pulling into, oh no, sorry, Eric Debard's already pulled in. That was the CMR Ginetta of Adrian Stern that was just pulling into Parc Fermé there. And Cesar van der Westen has held on to the Porsche Cup victory, and so he will be on the top step of the podium in his class ahead of Stefan Perrin. A shake of the hands from Eric Debard and Laurens Tomlinson there as well. Of course, Debard only 1.5 seconds in the end there. I wonder, was Laurens just cruising through the end of that race? And well, I think we're about to find out, because Claire Cottingham is down in pit lane with our race winner.
Laurens, you said to me yesterday, Laurens, you wanted to make sure this was...
Oh, looks like the microphone isn't working for Claire just yet, so hopefully we will be able to hear from Laurens shortly, but while we wait for that to be sorted, I will just remind you that there are 2 more races to come for the Ultimate GT Sprint Cup today. The first one at 5 minutes past 12 local time. The last one at 4:45 local time as well, where we will see yesterday's drivers back out as well, as well as the ones we've just seen in race number 4. Also to come today, the Ultimate Formula Cup, the European Endurance Prototype Cup as well, and qualifying for the Ultimate GT Endurance Cup. The race taking place tomorrow, though. And so plenty of action still to come at Circuit Magny-Cours with the Ultimate Cup series. Right, let's try that again with Claire Cottingham, is downstairs with Lawrence.
Let's try one more time. Who doesn't love microphones that don't work? Lawrence, congratulations. We were just talking there a little bit about why you kind of slowed down at the end, and it kind of makes sense now because you're 15-second lead and you've got to save these tyres.
Yeah, Thibaut came on the race on the radio and said I had a 15-second lead, but I don't know what happened to the Ford, but he was really close all race. It's super fast in a straight line, and he's driving really well. So I enjoyed the battle, and I've got 15 seconds, and these are the tyres I use for the next race. So I used up the 15 seconds, and when he got close, then I just kept the pace on the last lap, let him catch up. So because he's got to use his tyres as well.
Cheeky, I like that. I like that. For you as well, you said yesterday you wanted to get the win, and this is exactly what you're after.
Yeah, Team CMR have been absolutely great. I mean, Ginetta have a big sort of partnership with them in France. They look after us very well. So huge thank you to CMR, and yeah, hopefully Gregor can get a win. Gregory can get the win in the next race too. So.
Well, let's see. Let's see. We've got plenty more racing to go. Well, Lawrence, congratulations. There is a win today. Go and enjoy it, but not too much. Got more racing to go. Do make sure you stay with us, though, because we've got the Formula Cup going out next, and a championship battle is heating up. Join us then.
We got it.